Hey everybody, welcome to the Real United States and happy Valentine's Day. Um, this year we're going to do a 50-year tribute to an event that happened involving St. Valentine in lieu of the Cupid's Undie Run that we've done for the last couple of years. Still, if you are familiar with that, I encourage you to support that cause. It's a wonderful charitable organization, but this year we're going to do something a little differently. Because this year, in 2019, we have been celebrating a lot of 50th anniversaries, the events of 1969. And it turns out that, in fact, there is one today. And it was 50 years ago today, on Valentine's Day, that St. Valentine was removed from the official Roman Catholic liturgical calendar. Now, I'm not a Catholic, so I apologize if I screw this up, but he didn't lose his sainthood, and he didn't really lose much of anything other than the mandatory Mass in his honor on February 14th specifically. It was relegated to what they call local calendars. And so if there is no conflicting other Mass on that day, then it is appropriate to still hold a Mass in St. Valentine's honor. But if there is a conflict with somebody else who is on the actual liturgical calendar, they would take precedence. And I think this is why, well, one of the reasons why he was removed from the calendar. And because there really wasn't that much known about him, other than he was a priest in the 3rd century. I mean, that was their reasoning, from what I've read, that there wasn't enough known about him. Now, St. Valentine, for those of you who aren't total geeks like me, was a Christian priest in the 3rd century. He was born around 226, I believe. And interestingly enough, he had a run-in with the Roman emperor. I want to say that it was Claudius II or Cassius II. It's really immaterial. He had a run-in with him. He tried to convert him to Christianity, and they got in a bit of an argument, and the emperor, being, well, all-powerful, had him dragged off, and he was beaten. By most accounts, he was beaten to death and then beheaded. At any rate, he was severely beaten, and then beheaded. And this would happen in 269. So, just by, I don't know if it's by coincidence or by design, but in 1969, 1,700 years to the day after, and let's not get involved in the whole thing about the calendar changing, 1,700 years to the day, in theory, they removed him from the liturgical calendar. I just thought that was pretty weird that it happened on St. Valentine's Day, exactly 1,700 years after his death, and now here we are at 1,750 years, so it is the 50th anniversary of St. Valentine's removal from the official liturgical Roman Catholic calendar. I mean, not a big deal. I just thought it was interesting, and because we are celebrating all these things that happened in 1969, obviously some of them, not as spectacular, lesser known, but still historically interesting. So if I live to see 2026, I guess it'll be, that should be Valentine's 1800th birthday, I believe. So I already got it on my calendar in Outlook, so folks, we'll have a celebration, some kind of big thing for the 1800th birthday of Valentine on February 14th, or no, not February 14th. Well, yeah, we'll celebrate it then. It's not his birthday, but they don't know when his actual birthday was. They're relatively certain about the year, but they don't know what day he was born on. So, unfortunately, we're relegated with the day of his death. Now, there, Valentine became associated with courtly love, and the reason is that he supposedly was performing Christian marriages for young couples who couldn't otherwise get married because there was a big push to draft these young men into the armed forces, and so marriage had been banned by the emperor, and Valentine was going around and secretly performing marriages, which is another thing that probably got him in trouble with the emperor because he was performing marriages, and I guess there was obviously a deferment in the service of the Roman army for married men over single young men. And so it was this act of kindness towards loving couples that got him associated with love and the idea of Valentine's Day celebrating love. And there are relics. And for those of you who don't know what the term relic means, it means physical remnants, pieces of him. In various churches and cathedrals around the world, we got a picture of the numero uno one right here. And I got to tell you, folks, nothing says love like the bare skull of your enemy. Wow. But this is, they believe, the actual skull of St. Valentine. Obviously, there's no absolute way to definitively prove that, but yeah, wow. So anyway, there's relics, pieces of him that are, kept in some sort of sepulcher, and in these places of worship. And I don't know, not being of that faith, I'm not sure I understand relics, but it's very cool that I guess that he is still honored, that he's being preserved in some way. I don't know. At any rate, this is why his act of selflessness to perform marriages for loving people is why for 17 centuries we have associated him with courtly love, with romance. And I don't know a great deal about him. Nobody really knows a great deal about him. They're not even sure which one of three men he might have been, but they're pretty sure it was one in particular. And but again, this is, the 3rd century, the record keeping, not quite what we're used to today. Anyway, folks, I just thought that was very interesting, and the fact that it fell out 50 years ago today on Valentine's Day, that he was removed from the calendar exactly 1,700 years after the event. It all seemed like it stacked up right in too weird of a coincidence, but that's the way it is, folks. So, happy 50th anniversary of the removal of St. Valentine from the liturgical calendar. But happy St. Valentine's Day to all of you out there. Know that Beverly and I, we love you in the way that is possible for this particular setting. And we certainly appreciate all of you. And we love hearing from all of you who So if you've got questions or comments, leave in the comment section down below. I do love hearing from you. I try to get back to everybody I can. If you're new here, well, happy St. Valentine's Day. And I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you'll consider picking subscribe to come along for the adventure, because we got lots more to show you. And as always, folks, well, thank you for watching.